All right. Hello. So I did a little bit of work off camera. Well, I say off camera. I re-recorded. I wasn't really happy with the last take, so I'm really probably retake this until I'm happy with it. But this one, this topic is gonna be a bit different. For me. This one is gonna be talking about maturity, and growth. A lot of people, I don't know where this has come from. A lot of people have got that maturity is the whole idea of soft-spoken or being wise and everything. And I think maturity and wisdom are two different things. They're on the same playing field, but they're not the same statue. They're on the same level, but that doesn't mean that they're the same material. I think wisdom is one of those things that you kind of just have as you grow, and that comes with time. Maturity, one can argue it comes with time. I don't agree. I think maturity comes from a lot of things, but I just think maturity in all isn't really the best way to put things. I want to try and say that I think of maturity as growth, but you can be a mature person and still not grow. So I don't think that is the way I want to put it. But the way I think I best want to put it is growing as a person is more important than maturing as a person. You can be a really silly person. You can talk about topics that maybe aren't that important every day in your life, and that's okay. But I I think as long as you grow to understand that there are points in time for those kinds of topics, while also being able to have discussions where we still talk about certain things, certain issues in the world, or maybe just go ahead and sit down with someone and level with them, talk to them about issues that maybe on a day-to-day you wouldn't really talk about. I mean, hell, I know people that are probably the dumbest people on this planet. I call them my friends, and yet somehow, somewhere, they always find a way to go ahead and surprise me every single time. Every single time they surprise me by how much they're able to talk about a certain issue. Talk about how, oh yeah, no, like I completely understand where you're coming from, and then give me a deep and really, really valuable insight that I maybe never thought of. And I think that is one of the most important things. Being able to still be who you are as a person, but grow. Understand that things are different. They're not necessarily just change in a second, but also not necessarily go ahead and just stop caring in the same way that you did before. I think that's what's important. Because I think the issue is a lot of people see maturity and growth as the exact same thing, and I don't agree with that. I think that those are similar, but again, different things. I remember one time I was talking to one of my friends about um, this kind of topic where it's just growing as a person and what it's like to grow. And I remember he brought up the fact that his point of view was that growing as a person is still very important in the same way that someone can see, sure, but at the exact same time, being mature doesn't necessarily mean you've grown. And that's what I ended up changing my opinion. And it's something that I have always thought about because it made sense. I mean, it does make sense. It's one of those ones where you kind of just sit there, you want to disagree with it, but you can't because it's true. Like you can't sit here and say that, maturity is the exact same as growth because it isn't. You can maybe think it, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily true. I think another thing that I'd like to say about this kind of topic as well is that, you know, how you are as a person will always change. You change as you grow, and that isn't necessarily maturity. You know, it's this kind of idea that, you know, maturity, you change who you are as a person. And there's one thing I hate is this whole idea that being a mature person, you change the way you speak about not topics, but like just talk. It's how you speak. That whole idea, I despise it. I think it is one of the worst things ever conceived. Like, okay, cool. So we're gonna go from, you know, actually growing as a person and understanding different worldviews to going ahead and sounding like a very fancy British person and be like, oh yes, I understand. Yeah. That's what what people see as mature now. And then there's a whole topic of emotional maturity, which I think I will get onto, but not right now. I'm gonna go ahead and lead this on to it. That makes sense. But it's just one of those ideas that I hate it so much, because everyone thinks that they're above each other, and it's like, we're not above each other. There's no one that's higher or lower on the totem pole here. We're all just idiots that are trying to make it by, that are trying to make do with what we have, with the cards that we've been played, and it's fine. It's fine to go ahead and think slightly differently to someone. But growth is to go ahead and understand with that. Now, in terms of kind of emotional maturity, I think that's a different story. Because that one, emotional maturity, I think it is one of the only times where I will agree with the word mature. The reason I say that isn't because, you know, I decided that I've suddenly changed my mind or something. But because I think that maturity on an emotional level is something you can't learn overnight. You can learn overnight about sensitive subject, but you can't learn overnight about, you know, how you can't learn overnight about, you know, what it is to love a person. You can't learn overnight to go ahead and reflect on actions that you took. You know, to understand the weight of something, you kind of you do need to have that time where you just kind of sit and maybe think to yourself like, damn, wow, that was bad. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, it is one of those things where you kind of just understand it at one point. Take the time, sit down, you have way too many conversations about it, and suddenly you learn. You understand that this is what it means. I remember during my first ever breakup, I got called emotionally immature. And at the time, it hurt a lot because well, first things first, I didn't understand what it meant. Then I kind of realized that the way that my ex had used the term was incorrect. Because emotional immaturity, from my understanding as of this current moment, why does this count on? There we go. As of this current moment, from my understanding, it's being able to discuss topics and grow. I think growth will never happen overnight. And if people expect growth to happen overnight, that is a very weak-minded point of view. And, you know, yeah, you can go ahead and say that maybe, you know, one or two people were, you know, immature. That's fine, because, you know, maybe they were. Maybe they were the kind of person that you couldn't really sit down and have a conversation with. Maybe they were the kind of person that, you know, you really did try a lot, but that person didn't give enough back. There's not necessarily anything bad about thinking that. Because at the end of the day, that's how it is. Can you guys let yourselves in, please? But that whole idea of, you know, being able to change almost straight away, I hate it so much, because I think it's so narrow-minded, and it doesn't actually put into effect what change is. And in my opinion, change is slowly going over, understanding certain. And surprisingly, I don't know. I guess from that, I took a lot of thought to it, and it did help me grow as a person. It really did, and I'm glad that I got called it, even though I don't necessarily agree with the fact that I was emotionally immature at the time. Maybe I was, and I haven't realized it, and maybe that is another thing I need to learn, that I was during that time wrong. But even then, I know for me personally, regardless of it, I'm going to strive to be better. There's another thing as well that I've seen a lot online recently with growth and stuff, and that is to stop giving people who don't give you that same energy back that energy. And I do agree with it to a degree. I think the thing is that I very much grew up on the idea of treat others how you want to be treated, because I think it is a very important mindset to have, because at the end of the day, I want to be treated with love and respect. So naturally, I'm going to give people that same amount. I'm going to try and go ahead and be as kind as I can. And I'm not a perfect person. There will be times where I will be rude, probably not nice. And it is not something I'm happy with, but it's something that happens quite often. Not by choice, but more so by the coincidence of it. But everyone keeps saying, like, oh yeah, if this person is not putting that same energy in, stop giving it to them. Like, no. I care for someone. If I truly want to give someone kindness, I'm not going to go ahead, turn around and stop giving that person care and kindness, because to me that just makes no sense. Yeah, maybe that person doesn't deserve it, but to me, I think that regardless of who they are as a person now, doesn't reflect who they will be as a person in maybe a year, maybe 3. It's always going to be different. People will grow, people will change, and that's just how it is. And you don't have to accept someone for who they are now, and you don't have to accept someone for who they are in the future. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that I used to care about that I hurt. I'm not necessarily proud of it, not necessarily happy with it, but it's just the truth. I grew as a person a lot, and so from there, I've not really had the chance to go ahead and sit down and be like, maybe that person doesn't deserve the energy. I've not had that chance to sit with that, but at the exact same time, I don't necessarily agree with it, because I think that people, regardless of how much hate that person, hating someone gets boring. It gets lackluster, depressing. It's just, in my opinion, it's sad hating a person. To hate a person so much that you want to go out of your way to spite that person, it's depressing, in my opinion. And yeah, you know what? Maybe poking fun at someone is fine. Maybe if you want to go ahead and be that kind of person, someone who just doesn't deserve that energy, then yeah, I mean, I can't stop you. It's not my choice, is it? But at the exact same time, it's one of those things where I've kind of realized, especially now, with a lot of people, they jump to things, they jump to conclusions that instantly, straight away, these people, they don't deserve any kind of energy at all. I think people could change. I really do think people. I think it is one of the best things that we have as human beings. The fact that we can grow, we can change our worldview so easily. I mean, there's people out there that will go ahead and die on a hill. Will go ahead and do something and say that they're not in the wrong for it. And you don't have to necessarily agree with it, but to understand it, to go ahead and sit there and be like, okay, but why is this how you think? From understanding the root of where they come from, I think that's a much more important thing. And that's why, for me, it's like, when I got, for example, when I got cheated on by my first ex, I wasn't necessarily angry. I was hurt, yes, but I wanted to understand why. And then I got a really bogus excuse of, you know, like, oh yeah, it just felt trapped. Even though we lived in separate houses, in separate areas, and it, you know, the journey between us was an actual, like, you know, travel. It took effort for me to get to there, but, you know, I'm not going to get into that discussion right now because that's a topic for a different day. But like that, it's just understanding. You know, it's a morbid curiosity, if anything, to want to understand why people hurt you, and I think that's one of the things that I have. This topic today that I'm talking about, or that I have talked about, really, maturity. I think people can grow and mature as time goes. Everyone can. Forgiveness doesn't need to be given to everybody. It's not deserved by everybody. But at the exact same time, it's not owed for you to forgive that person. All it is, if you really want to go ahead and grow as a person, don't forgive them, but accept that they've changed. That's my opinion. I think growth is accepting that people can change. You don't need to go ahead and accept them and forgive them for how they've changed. That's not on you. It's not your responsibility. But being able to turn to them and say, I'm glad that you've grown, and I hope you keep growing. I have many people in my life that I care about who I know don't care about me. But I still care for them. Yeah, maybe it's a very weird thing to say, but I think it's one of those things that I'd much rather grow knowing that I gave 110% than let myself go and know that I could have done better. I could have done more. But yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys did enjoy watching. Obviously, you know, have a great day. If you did enjoy the video, tell everybody about it. Go ahead and send this to someone if they need to hear it. Tell me what you think about today's video. This one is a very mixed subject for me. I'm not 100% certain about what I'm thinking about it. So, you know, it's kind of tackling a topic that I'm still thinking over. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.